Today, I want to address one of the most common questions I get asked, and that is how do you handle your tastings? Okay, I have so many opinions on that. We're going to dive into that today for my weekly wedding cake business tip. Hi, I'm Jenny, and I teach wedding cake makers how to be better business owners. Okay, so let's talk about tastings. So many people ask this question, and I have a Facebook group of just wedding cake designers. And when this question gets asked, there are 8 million different answers. So there's too much for me to put in a comment on Facebook, so I'm just going to put it in my weekly tip. All right, so tastings are tricky because they're obviously not the most efficient thing to do, but it's a sales technique. And if you look at it like that, this is your best opportunity to put your best services out there and really show people who you are. So this is something you don't want to take lightly, especially if you're just starting out. Okay, so I do know that a lot of bakers, just like I did, started in a home kitchen, and that's where I was. And I did my tastings in person in my home. And what I did is I had a separate room in my home, a little library that we turned into a little area where I can meet my clients. Now, it's not easy to do. For a while, I had a dog. I had to get rid of the dog. I had to move the dog to another room. You have to make sure that you have, obviously your house is clean. You can't cook anything because you don't want your house to smell and things like that. So it is a little tricky when you have kids and dogs and a family and everything like that. But it really is the best way to do it if you can do it in your home. So I do highly, highly recommend in-person tastings. What I don't recommend is meeting somebody in a coffee shop or meeting someone on common ground, meaning, you're meeting in a central location. What this does is it gives the power away to the client. And I made this mistake early on because I was trying to be accommodating to a couple. And this is when I first started. I maybe had 3 tastings at that point under my belt. And we were trying to find a place to meet, and they were from a little bit farther away. So I suggested we meet at a coffee shop. And they, everything went fine. I brought my cakes and things like that. And, I cleared it with the shop beforehand. But they saw me as not as professional as I could have been. And you know what? They're right. And I never did that again. So from then on, I always held all my tastings on my ground in my area so that I could lead the tasting. And that's really important for confident selling, because when someone is coming to your place, you have a process in place. I teach this process in my Wedding Cake Business Academy, but you have a process in place and you are leading your clients the whole way through so that they are not taking control. You are taking control. And when they see that you have the confidence in this, that is when the trust is developed and there's a connection there. So they trust you to make their wedding cake, because you're not just making a cake, you're going to be a part of their team on their wedding day. So this is really, really important. So when you are doing your tastings, try to think about where you can do them in person. If you can't do them in your home, I totally understand that. It's very difficult. See if you could possibly share a space with another vendor. So you could find a wedding planner or somebody who has a small studio and just say, hey, listen, I would love to rent out your space, even if it's just once a month or once a week or something like that. And that way it does 2 things. First of all, it gives you a place where you are in control. And then second of all, you're building a network. There you are. You just networked with a wedding planner or anybody, maybe it's a photographer or something like that, somebody who also needs a little bit of a space. And if you can't find a space that's already done, a vendor that already has a space, you could even reach out to a few vendors and say like, hey, do you guys want to share a space with me? a minimal cost if you all share it together, and they're probably in the same boat. They probably need a place to meet with their clients as well. So think about that. You could even make a little showroom, super cute, put your cakes displays in there, and other vendors could have their things in there. This was very common for us way back before we had websites. So keep that in mind too. If that's not an option, maybe you could do what one of my students did, and she was brilliant for coming up with this. She developed a process where she would create an experience for their clients in their home. So what she would do, I don't have all the details, but what she would do is she would curate this beautiful tasting box and bring it to them along with instructions. She would present to them in their home. I think she added a little champagne or something like that to make it a real experience. And what this does, a few things, super creative, because she came up with this on her own. I did not teach her this. This was brilliant that she did this. And it creates, again, an experience for the couple. And that's what they're looking for. They don't know it, but they want an experience. They don't want just a box mailed to them. Like, I promise you, they really don't. So this has been super, super successful with her. And I remember when she first joined my course a couple of years ago, and we were doing a group coaching call, she was telling me, or actually I think we were on a private call, she was telling me how she's like, I'm not booking all my tastings. And I said, okay, where are you meeting your clients? And she said, partly in a coffee shop, and then partly she was doing this experience. I said, is there any correlation between which ones booked and which ones didn't? And sure enough, it was the ones that she met in a coffee shop on common ground that did not book with her. So if you can come up with some sort of experience that you can give your couples, think about that too, okay? And then if you are really wanting to do tasting boxes, I think this is mostly for high volume businesses, and maybe businesses where you're doing more than just weddings, and maybe you're not doing the super higher tier pricing of wedding cakes. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but what I'm saying is the cost of the wedding cake can be lower, so that you don't have to offer as much service as an in-person tasting. And that's completely fine. But if you do a box, just make sure that you do something different with it. So you make sure that you do some beautiful branding. I have another one of my students, she's been really successful with this. Her tasting boxes are gorgeous. She's got her logos on it. And her logo is beautiful. She ties it in this beautiful, beautiful ribbon. Everything is explained. And again, it's different. It's something that is unique. So if they are getting a tasting box, because, if you figure maybe they pick up a few boxes, or I've heard of people getting mailed to them, what's going to make them stand out? If you're not selling, if you're not there in front of them, it's going to be really, really difficult to get the whole point across of what you're offering. So if you are doing tasting boxes, just make sure you do something different with it. Make sure it's super unique. If you want a higher end client, make sure the tasting box is gorgeous. Do something really special with it. There's all kinds of specialty packaging companies out there that can do this for you these days, so it makes it a lot easier. So that's what I wanted to talk about tastings. We're not going to go too deep into it, because this is just a weekly tip, but this is something that I do teach inside my Wedding Cake Business Academy, and we are launching in September, guys. I am so excited. September 2026. We already have students enrolled. If you want to be on the wait list, I'll put my email in the description for you. And really, we launch once a year. It's an online course that you get access to the course, and then it also includes 6 months of group coaching. And this is personally done by me. We all get on, and this is where the real magic comes out, because we don't just talk about numbers and baking. We talk about everything, the family balance, the mindset, all kinds of stuff. So it is going to be coming out in September. I just am putting the finishing touches on it. And if you want to have more information about that, or if you want to be on the wait list, just email me. Okay, so that's what I want to talk about tastings. So just keep in mind that this is the chance that you get, the first chance that you get to really show your clients who you are. So use it wisely. Okay, I will see you next week. Bye.